know what you're gonna say. We got a solution. Anyway, this is a podcast today. Graham, Ashcon, and Derek here to play. Let's go. Let's go. Podcast.
Okay, welcome everyone.
Hey there,
This is Ashcon,
Graham over here.
and we have a special guest with us today.
Derek,
Derek.
or DJ Darebear.
DJ Darebear is
In
what
the
we call him.
house!
So Derek's with us for an entire week. We're doing a little week of some social media questions we've had kind of building up in the background here. And so this is going to be a Derek week.
And
I thought I was just supposed to be here for today.
you may recognize Derek from the conference running the marketing forum, where he kind of hosted the entire thing. He also runs our social media for Float On and a lot of our enterprises. So is one of our kind of marketing side of things, a little more behind the scenes.
So we got a question. We got a question for you today,
Oh
Derek.
yeah, I
Save
forgot
this
about that. I thought this is all just
That's
introducing
how we
him,
usually
yeah.
do these things.
Awkward silence.
All right, and today's question is, how many likes should my Facebook page have? Is there a normal amount?
So tell us about people being normal.
Yeah, what would you describe as normal over there?
It's about average. One of the big things about how many Facebook likes you should have is it's kind of a double-edged sword. So you have a lot of likes, and then if you're trying to get people to see that message, Facebook's only going to show it to about 5% of the people. So if you have 10,000 or even 1,000 likes, it's only going to show it to a small fraction of people. Rule applies too if you have a small group of people on your page. It's going to show it to the same 5%. So now you're really showing it to like 30 people.
It always shows a small percentage, even if you have like a tiny amount of people liking your page.
Yeah.
If you have like 15 people, it's still only showing to like
It-
5%.
it might
of
be you
15
and your
people.
mom
It's
see
like
those-
0.75.
Yeah. It'll be you and your mom see those posts. So yeah, definitely.
Wow, lame. That's super lame.
I've seen pages with like maybe 200 likes that might get 15, 20 reach.
Interesting. And so we have to kind of like bucket this by time too. Like let's because it's a center that's been open for like 10 years and active on Facebook should probably have
More
a
than
different
their
number of
mom
likes than
following
right than someone who's been open for like 6 months.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess the population of yours, like, it depends on so many things, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm interpreting this questioner's question as is for a float center, like how do they tell if they're doing well or not? Like how do they tell if they're like, boy, I should have a lot more people liking my page right now, or hey, these are actually like pretty decent numbers for a float center?
I think there's more important numbers than just how many likes you have, right? Like how engaging is your page and are the people actually interacting with your posts? So you might, let's say, only have 500 likes on your page, but if 15, 20, 30 people are interacting with every post, that's really good. So, I mean, there are different metrics, I think, to focus on than just likes. While likes are important because they help you reach larger audiences, especially when you start getting into the paid world of Facebook, it's more important, like, is what you're saying actually relevant to the people who are watching it?
Yeah, and I think this comes down to, I mean, you see just a lot of strategies on Facebook of companies trying to like almost like mine likes. You know, they have these like things, and the goal of their things on Facebook are to get people to like their page, almost like very bluntly. Sometimes you see like, hey, like our page and we'll do this for you, sort of thing. And yeah, I think some of that can be almost a like a false prophet or something. Like when you're
I think if you use those tactics, let's say if you buy 5,000 likes, or for example, if you run a contest for an iPad, like my center, and then you might win this iPad, those probably aren't fans. Those are likes, and what you want to acquire is fans, right? So anybody can like your page, and they can mute it, and they can unfollow it, but still like it, and just kind of like be a number. But what you really want are people who are interested in floating, looking at your posts, engaging with them, sharing with them, liking your posts, hearting your posts, smiley face, frowny face, whatever.
They're very serious business topics now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how many people are smiley facing your posts?
Sir, we have 5 people smiley face last week. We need more.
and this kind of comes back to this idea of Facebook only showing your posts to a certain amount of your audience, right? Like if you end up with an audience of 20,000 people, but 15,000 of those are acquired by kind of competitions and are more of these hollow likes. it means the chances that when you do make a post that reaches people who care about it is way lower than if you acquired, if you had much less of an audience. Let's say you only had 5,000 people out of that 20,000, and you hadn't paid for that other 15,000, then the 5% of that 5,000 is very likely to connect with what you're posting and is probably more true fans. That's kind of the trade-off to getting a really high amount of likes artificially early on.
So what you want to focus on is, instead of how many likes you have, how you acquire those likes, making sure that those are actually float fans or people actually interested in floating. They don't have to be an avid floater, but they have to be piqued by floating and curious about what floating can provide them. And then it's your job through your content to actually help them understand that.
Yeah, so they call these things vanity metrics, like metrics that look good but don't actually have a lot of significance to your bottom line or how many people.
There's
are
a
actually
lot
gonna
of those
float.
in marketing.
And another important one, if you're wondering what a vanity metric is, the word is kind of self-explanatory, but numbers that only go up. If there's essentially like zero to no chance of zero to no chance of your numbers going down, like likes, then good chance that it's a vanity metric.
Right.
So yeah, before we get into like engagement and maybe what good engagement looks like, here's a question: Is there a like vanity benefit to vanity numbers? Like, is there at least some benefit to someone looking at a business's page and it not being like an embarrassing low amount of likes or something like that, just for that kind of public perception's sake?
There's a third-party validation. So like when you're just starting out and you have 75 people who've liked your page and you're running these Facebook ads and you're first in town to advertise floating, they're like, what is this floating thing? They go to the page and there's 75 people that like it. They might not be as interested. But if there's a buzz around it, if they can see there's 400, 500, 600 and growing that are liking this, interested, they can see some of the posts on the page and see people are actually engaging with it and are understanding floating and talking about it, they might actually like it too and continue to follow.
Yeah, I think like to a small degree, I do agree with that. I think there's some benefit to not having what feels like a ghost town or something like that, just because it's a weird thing. Floating's a weird thing, and people are looking for a little bit of social validation to make sure that like other people do this and they're not just about to go spend $70, $80 on something totally crazy. So I think to a certain extent, having a like slightly beefy number to begin with has some value to it.
But if this listener wants an actual number, of course it's going to be relevant to the size of their population, but 1,000 likes is probably a good third-party validated. There's a lot of people interested in this. You look at small business pages from all across restaurants and other different industries, and the ones that kind of are just there on Facebook for the sake of being there only have a couple hundred likes, but the ones people are sharing and checking in at and talking about more have more of a little bit of momentum behind them.
Yeah.
I like that 1,000 number just because it's kind of arbitrary, but it does feel psychologically. I mean, getting up to just 4 digits makes your business seem a little more significant. So I mean, and that when you get up to like 10,000 likes, 1,000 people who half of those maybe you paid for or kind of padded it with is not going to be like padding your numbers with 15,000 extra likes or something like that. So I agree. I think that kind of rushing and maybe paying a little more to get up to 1,000 at the very beginning feels like not a bad strategy if you're going to do it ever.
Right.
Okay, so with kind of like the vanity side of it out of the way, I think a lot of what we look at when we look at our social media stuff is like the engagement on posts. When we do post something, like how many people are kind of liking those posts, commenting on those posts, actually interacting with us. I guess do you have a sense of what a quote unquote normal amount of engagement for a float center posting something would be? Like what should make someone feel good? Like, hey, that post was a successful post.
So I think the first number I would look at is actually reach, right? So if you have 1,000 fans and you make a post, does Facebook show it to 30 people or do they show it to 300 people? So you can actually start looking at the types of posts that Facebook gives a little bit more reach to and maybe want to start doing more of those.
So they look at your post and they're like, this is worthy of more people.
They are the keepers of the cheese.
And
absolutely.
So what is it? What are they doing?
Well,
like, how are they determining?
It changes week to week what they're looking at.
These are
right?
like sometimes they like images. They don't like text on their images.
Oh, yeah. So it
they like
changes
videos
all
that
the
are
time.
in their own video program rather than linked to YouTube.
So it changes all the time, and then when crafty marketers figure out how to quote hack the algorithm, they change it again, right? Because
It's kind
Facebook,
of like SEO. It's like the SEO of
it's the
Facebook.
SEO Facebook posts.
Yeah.
So, but you don't need to get that deep. What you need to do is just kind of be aware of what people are actually engaging with. And I go back to that because Facebook is a social platform. If you don't get social engagement. It's just a platform, and it doesn't have any real value.
All right, so are you saying that Facebook treats that more so than they treat their own kind of algorithms about posts? Like if you're getting engagement, then they'll naturally show it to more people because they think this is something that people want to see? Is that kind of how it works?
Facebook wants to keep people on Facebook longer, and so if people are engaging, because the more ads they see, right? So if I'm on Facebook for 5 minutes and then I see that crummy Float Center post and it makes me go, I better get off the internet. Facebook's going to go, wait a second. After they saw that post, they got off the internet. Let's go ahead and not show more from that
And
source.
charge them more money.
Exactly. So then what happens if you put a really good post out there and maybe get engaged with it? Let's say go back to a user. I'm a user, I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I see a Float Center post, and I go, oh, I like it, and I might comment on it. Facebook goes, oh, engaged user. They engaged with this page. Maybe we should show that to more people. And so what happens is your reach can increase when you have something hot. So one of the tricks people do that actually Facebook, again, when you trick Facebook and Facebook finds out about it, they tweak the algorithm. So people always go, comment, share, and like this post, and blah, 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 blah. And so people comment, share, and like for a contest or something like that. And so Facebook sees that strategy and goes, you're just trying to get free reach. Okay, when I hear the words or see the words comment, like, and share in a post, let's kill the reach to that. So it kind of goes one of those strike while the iron's hot when you find a Facebook trick. And then when you're, again, monitor.
Take it for what it's worth.
Take it
until
for what it's
goes
worth.
away.
When you find your reach is starting to go down, stop doing that one thing. There's a lot of things that affect reach. If you're sharing links to your website every single post, you're just talking about yourself, and Facebook goes, nobody likes people who talk about themselves, and people kind of say the same thing too. So then they'll stop with the reach on that. So mix up the content, start monitoring. Do pictures actually do better? Is short text doing better? Is longer text doing better? Are videos doing better on YouTube or native?
And right now we're not even talking about likes still, right? We're just talking about the reach that you're getting.
We're just talking about the reach.
Okay.
So more
So it's
importantly
just,
than
yeah,
how
is it
many
showing
likes.
the post to a number of people.
Right, because you can have, again, like we go back to 1,000 likes, and if it's only shown to 50 people, it doesn't matter if you have 2,000 likes. So it matters more your reach. And with reach, you're going to actually get more free exposure. Facebook actually does reward. If you scroll your Facebook feed and you're always interacting with, let's say, the Economist Facebook page because you like the Economist and you're engaging, you're reading all the articles, Facebook's going to go, let's show that to that person more. Well, if you're a fan of Float and you're always engaging with the Float posts, Facebook's going to keep showing them to you. So it's actually a very beneficial thing to put posts up that people are going to like and engage with that aren't always about yourself. They could be research articles. They could be other stories. They can be, the best thing is things around your shop. If people are taking pictures of, fun happenings around the shop and sharing that, people like seeing things that are familiar and they recognize. And so those things get more reach. And so there's just a lot that kind of goes into reach. And so that would be the first number I look at. Then I also look at, am I getting actual?
But backing up just a second. So what number is good there? Like, let's say someone.
percentage-wise,
Oh,
I guess is what we're.
Everybody's got a
looking
different
at.
number.
So you
So
said like 5% is kind of default.
I would
so
say
50 out of 1,000 would be 5%. Right?
always be improving until you kind of hit a plateau. So like for Float On, for example, we can probably get 10 to 20% reach. And I know that's a wide range, but it kind of varies on the post.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, some
We're
centers
getting
might
like
get
10 to, that's pretty good, actually.
yeah.
That's like, I think, the perspective people are looking for here, right? It's not like without paying for things, you're just going to naturally be able to hit like 90%.
Yeah,
reach
no,
and
it
stuff
used
like
to be
that.
a lot better, but then of course Facebook went public and they
Right.
have
I mean, it used to be 100% back in the day before they started limiting all this
a
stuff.
very short part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like 5% is kind of like the default. Is that
I would shoot for at least 5 if you're not getting 5. So if you're
actively doing something wrong if you're not hitting 5? And then if you're hitting like 10, is that good? Is that like medium? Where would you put like 10%?
I would say 10's probably like a good, like, okay, 10% of my audience is seeing this for free. And there's a lot of things you can do to try to increase that, like different times of day. And always be testing the types of content, the times of day. I find in the mornings better. I don't know if that's just a Portland thing or not. It just varies.
So 10's like a good baseline to aim for.
Yeah.
If you can get that.
Yeah.
And then above 10, you'd say is actually kind of doing good. As you're getting up to like 15, 20% reach. Those
Yeah.
are the posts you'd say like, hey, I did good on that post.
Yeah. And every center, again, is different. So
And if you're getting 50%, like you should be doing this podcast.
if you're getting
should be listening to
50%, you probably know somebody at Facebook.
Okay, yeah.
Like, what other metrics do you think are useful to look at? I mean, in terms of the actual like engagement you see on a post when you post things.
Comments or like
Likes.
if you get a bunch of
Smiley
loves as
faces.
opposed to likes, does that mean anything?
There's things that aren't even post specific we can get into. We can get into the number of reviews people are leaving on Facebook. We can get
Right.
into the number of check-ins people are doing. Check-ins are great because check-ins not only tell people what you're doing, but it shares the page. Hey, everybody, I'm here. It's kind of like a little free advertisement that people are just naturally doing without any effort other than hitting the check-in button on their app and saying, oh, time for my float. So if you can increase your number of check-ins, those are some things too that I think often people forget about.
And so here's something that I've noticed looking around and sure, I'll say it, spying on other float centers, you know.
Oh yeah.
But I can tell who pays for a bunch of their posts and who doesn't just by the ratio of the number of check-ins to the total number of likes. And I know kind of our baseline in a couple other centers, which is we don't pay much money for Facebook ads in general.
Right.
And our ratio is almost like half. It's like half check-ins to total number of likes is what we have. And other centers that starts getting way, you know, when it's like 5% the amount of check-ins compared to the total number of likes, I'm like, oh, you probably paid for 90% of your likes. So that's kind of interesting, at least here. And again, I know about 2 other centers who really don't pay for many ads, and they have about that same ratio. You know, a few thousand likes. We're around like 8,000, 9,000 at the time of the recording, and about half that number of people checking in. So that's kind of an interesting, at least baseline. I don't know if that applies across all businesses or just for us, but something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's an excellent point too, as far as, you know, kind of just, you can actually in Facebook follow other pages so you can kind of see your performance to the centers around you or even centers you admire. So there's in the Insights tab, if you're in Facebook Business Manager, you can actually add pages that you, again, admire or just the local, quote unquote, centers
spy on.
around.
That's what
You want to
saying.
spy, yeah. And just see if what you're doing
We're all
is...
adults here. We can say spy.
yeah, we can. Yeah. But then we have to kill you. No. Then, so what ends up happening is you can see if you're on par with what's going on in your community or if you're exceeding.
What about comments? What comments are normal for a post, or how many comments should people be aiming for?
If your actually post engages enough to warrant a comment, you're going to get more comments, right? So if you are going to say something along the times like, tell us about the first time you floated, right? That's going to get a lot more comments than just like, here's an article about anxiety reduction. Are people really going to comment on that? So almost like the context of the actual post you're doing is going to invoke more comments than other types of posts. So when you do have, let's say, for example, one of those comment baiting posts, like tell us about your first experience floating, that number is really hard to pin down because, again, how personal is the story that they're wanting to share? And comments is very important in Facebook. I don't have a metric that actually tells you if you have 2% comments on your post, you're doing outstanding.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I was just trying to think, too, of just like overall number of likes or comments where I feel like something's doing good.
You have like likes, comments, and shares. I go back to that. So those are those numbers. You can start seeing if those are increasing. Comments, again, are always fantastic for multiple reasons. And shares are great because, again, it's free advertising. Those people are loving your post so much that they're sharing it with their extended network of friends.
So let me set up a scenario for you.
Okay. This is like two-sided here. You can't see in the studio, but they're grilling me right now. There's two of them on a microphone.
There's just a single hanging light down in the center of the room.
It really is.
Metal
Actually.
table.
I don't even have a chair. I have to stand.
Damn it, Derek! Just give me a straight answer.
All right, let's go.
All right. So I have a scenario. That's what I was saying. I have a scenario.
Great.
I have one.
I was just getting into the good cop, bad cop routine for you. I was going a little too deep into the scenario. You can go ahead.
Which one was?
All right. Here's what I'm saying. Let's say that you have a center that has a couple thousand likes.
Okay.
They make a post. It gets 2 or 3 likes on their post that they made. No comments, no shares.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good or is that bad? Let's assume that the likes aren't theirs. They actually got 2 or 3 natural likes from their audience. Did they do a good thing, or like? Because it seems
so if they have 2,000 fans and they got 2 likes, that's a bad thing. Because of the fact, and we're talking likes on the post, not like new likes to their page.
Yep, likes on that specific post.
I would say that's a bad thing.
Because I see people who have like 25,000 likes make a post and they get 1 or 2 likes on their post.
Mm-hmm. No comments.
A lot
No
of that,
comments.
I don't see their back ends, but I'd like to see their reach. And I bet with the 25,000, they're probably getting 500 reach. They're probably in Facebook jail and they don't even know it.
So then with 2,000, with 2,000 likes on your page, what would be a good amount of engagement with a single post? Like, how many likes on a single post would you consider successful for that size float center?
Like we could scale down because Float On has like 8,000, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I make a post and there's 20, 30 likes and 5 comments and a couple of shares, that's a healthy day.
Yeah, I
Depe-
feel good about those ones
yeah.
too. Yeah.
And so, and again, it varies too. There's some posts that I have done no paid advertising, and we have our 8,400 or some odd fans that get like 5,000 reach. And I'm like, that's almost our entire audience. And I think what a lot of that is, the industry will reshare an article to their Facebook page from our page. But a lot of that is also people wanting to share the information. So really, forget likes, shoot on providing content people are going to enjoy and want to share with their friends, and make it easily shareable. So one of the big things to test in your Facebook advertising without even the unpaid advertising is your copy, right? Are the words engaging? Is there context that mirrors the article? Are you just post an article, great article I found today on floating? That's not very engaging to read through the article and find out if it's a great article, right? But if you can share a snippet of the article and it intrigues people and it encourages them to actually go through and read the article and then come back and comment on the article, those are some things that can naturally actually boost your reach that actually you don't have to pay for.
And so, just doing some quick math with that last example.
Okay.
So if we're at 8,000-ish fans,
Right.
and our good post gets us 20 to 30, then for your average person, if you're getting above, like if you had 2,000 likes on your page, if you're getting above 5 people engaging with that post, that's actually, you're doing pretty good. It may seem small, but that's about the ratio that we're getting.
And those are
We're-
5 that aren't you and your spouse
yeah.
and your shop manager.
Fake Facebook profiles.
Fake Facebook profiles.
Yeah. So 5 actual,
Right.
real human beings, theoretically real, engaging. Yeah. Okay. I feel good about that.
There's some good numbers. I'd say let's cut it there because we got some more social media stuff coming up.
All right.
We don't want to spill all the beans
This
this
week.
early,
Yeah.
Listen up for the next 6 days and you hear more with Derek. And if you want to send us some questions of your very own, you can go to floattanksolutions.com/podcast.
Talk to you tomorrow, everyone.
Bye.